Hello and welcome to another Spaz Kangaroo tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you about the new volume shader feature that they just added to the development build of Blender, which you can download from builder.blender.org, or you can build it from source. And this new feature allows you to create volumetric shading, which is kind of like what you see in smoke or foam or mist. It allows some light to go through, but limits the amount of light that can actually go through. So here I am just setting up a quick test scene, and I time-lapsed this bit because some of you didn't really like seeing me set up scenes before, so if you really want to follow along you can watch it frame by frame or something, but it's basically just setting up a Suzanne with some 3-point lighting and just some textures so it looks nice. The volume shaders are still in heavy development, so there are only two currently: volume absorption and volume emission. Emission is actually just the default emission node, but we'll get back to that later. You won't notice much of a difference in the render viewport, except that maybe the glass is a little bit darker. We'll make the volume shader a bit more apparent by tinting it red. Now, as far as I understand from the docs, what it's actually doing is absorbing the red light that passes through it, and you can adjust how much light it absorbs by adjusting the density. If you turn this density way up, you'll see it absorbs all the light, thus making it black. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would you want to use the volume absorption node when you can just tint the glass color? Well, you can actually tint the glass color and use the volume absorption node at the same time, so you can have a blue tint for the surface, but have a red tint for the inside. So let's get on to the emission shader now. So to get volumetric emission, all you have to do is add the regular old emission node and plug it into the volume socket. And just like the volume absorption node, you can change the color to be whatever you want. The volume nodes also work by themselves. You may have noticed that I had a glass shader plugged in, and that's just because it makes things easier to see, and I was also showing how it works with a shell. But if you delete that, you can see it looks kind of ghost-like, and it works with both the emission node and the absorption node. You can't currently simulate smoke because the voxel data texture isn't currently supported by cycles. However, you can apply a procedural texture to the volume shader. Since the default is UV and wrapped, it doesn't really work right, so you have to change the mapping to something else. I generally pick either object or camera to set the mapping along the path of the camera, or I'm not completely sure what object does, but I think it does something with the shape. You can use this to either affect the color of the smoke or the density. Before I was using density, but now I'm going to show you how to do it with color, and then you can use a simple color ramp node to just set the highs and lows to red and blue. Time for some actual use cases. Right here I'm just setting up a cone to be kind of like a spotlight, and we're going to use it to have a volumetric spotlight so it looks like there's dust or particles in the air over what we're illuminating. Obviously, since this is going to be a light source, we should use the emit shader. So just take the emit shader, plug it into the volume output, and then set it to something pretty low, like 0.1 or 0.2. And now for one of the most popular uses of volumetric shading, fog or mist. So what I'm doing here is I'm just setting up an array of cubes so you can see the distance and how it fades out after a certain point. Now just create a giant cube that will cover the entire scene, or at least the area where you want the fog to be. Now make sure that the camera isn't inside of the cube because volumetrics don't support cameras inside of the mesh itself. So make sure it's slightly out in front of the camera. So for this shader, you're actually going to have to mix the absorption and the emission together, because if you use just absorption, it is completely dark in the background, which is kind of cool for a lighting effect, but not for fog. And if you use just emission, it will be white as it gets farther away. It'll fade to white, and you don't want that either, unless again it's a lighting effect. So just mix an absorption shader with an emission shader and plug that into the volume socket. To make the fog more dense, turn the density of the absorption shader up, and to make it less dense, turn the density of the absorption shader down, and to adjust the brightness, just adjust the density of the emission shader. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my introduction on how to use the absorption shader, node, emission shader stuff. Make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe to the channel. And check out my other channel, youtube.com/OffensiveNinjaCharlie. I post gaming videos and stuff on there. And you can follow me on Twitter. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you all later.